there's a preconception that adolescence is a fairly free and easy time, and that preconception is quite incorrect. Adolescents face a whole range of stressors, and unfortunately there are some reactions to those stressors.
So they're living in quite a different climate. They're living in a climate of almost immediate communication, which we certainly didn't have, when I was growing up.
I think, for me, a lot of things remain the same, like figuring out how, best friends and romantic partners and things, their changing role fits into your life, and how you negotiate things with your parents, and think about the big changes and decisions that you have to make towards the end of adolescence.
I mean, obviously the life of teenagers today is very different than what it was, say, when I was a teenager, or even when, even more recent generations of young people, when you didn't have the access to the internet so much. It wasn't quite so common as it is today.
There's probably always going to be different sorts of pressures, but it seems like some things have really escalated out of control, and things like the media have become more and more important in the last sort of 30 years or so, and I think that's definitely having an impact on our teenagers today.
In the early 21st century, what adolescents are being expected to do is to become adults much more quickly, to develop levels of responsibility that maybe they wouldn't have had in the past, to develop levels of autonomy that perhaps their parents wouldn't have let them have in the past. So,
I think all life stages have their particular issues that they face, and it's really important to understand that for each stage of life. So it's really important that we study adolescence, but I don't think they're necessarily worse off than any other age group.
And adolescence is a period of rapid growth, and when you stop and think about it, they're growing physically, they're growing socially in their contacts with other people, and they're growing cognitively. I mean, their brains, things are happening very quickly in their mind. And as one medical person says, the hard wiring still isn't in place. So there's a lot of mental stuff going on. So all of this is happening to these young people, and it's happening very quickly over a space of 4 or 5 years. Well, what I like to say is that one of the things that we don't realize is that teenagers are very busy people. And one of the things that we're finding in our study of young people in politics, and when we ask them why aren't they more interested in politics, the answer is usually because they've got so many other things to do that are important to them. And there are things like finding out about who they are, their self-identity. They're just discovering a lot of things about themselves for the first time. And they do this over a period of time by trial and error. I mean, they do this through their interactions with other people. And sometimes they experience, failures, like their relationships with other people. And this comes pretty hard for a teenager who's gone through this for the first time.
Well, I think the main message that I can send really is that there is a difference between being popular and being well liked, and the way that adults use the term popularity is not the same as the way students use the term. So that's pretty important.
I suppose it can be reduced to one word, and that's sensitivity. I think we probably need to be a bit more sensitive to adolescents' needs, and not consider them either as dumb kids or essentially irrelevant until they grow up and start earning money. They do sometimes have a rough time, and I think that we as parents, we as teachers, we as adults broadly need to be aware that they do have a rough time, and be sensitive to that, so that we can, if we're parents, be there when they have troubles. If we're teachers, take that into account. If we're just part of the general community, know that what we're dealing with is a very important group, a very sensitive group in terms of their development, and we have to take care of them.
Yeah, some people ask me whether I'm doing this research because I was a person who was really unpopular at school, and I'm not really sure about that. maybe not.
We're going back an awful long time. We are going back many, many years, but in a sense I think it may have been easier because I knew my place. Parents were boss, and that wasn't argued with. There was no real issue with things like alcohol and tobacco because they were illegal. So, except for the few aberrant kids around the place, and I knew some of them, we just didn't particularly consume alcohol until we were normally of the drinking age. whereas the borders are a little bit blurrier now. So I think I probably had a slightly easier time than adolescents do nowadays.
Yes. Being a teenager, yeah, it was lots of fun, but at times I couldn't wait to get out of high school.
It wasn't that long ago actually, so that's my other area of expertise. No.
And we did things. I mean, we probably did a little bit more drinking than we should have, and we had accidents when we started driving cars. You know, almost everybody had an accident of some sort, and so yeah. But we turned out to be pretty ordinary people, and in some cases we had some pretty important people coming out of our cohort, so to speak. So,
but when I was a teenager, there wasn't Facebook, Twitter, MSN days. But I think, yeah, a lot of things are the same.
I think it's really exciting. It's great to be involved in something like this and to be part of a discussion that's really going to be interesting. It's going to be great to see what sorts of things come up.
You know, we tend to exaggerate these kinds of negatives and fail to recognize the positives and to put them into perspective. So when I was thinking about what's wrong with teenagers, I mean, my immediate response was, tell me what you have in mind. I mean, because I think that when we look at some of the evidence, there's a lot of good that exists among the teenage population.
I think it's really good for people in the university to be talking about this kind of thing in a way that's accessible for the public, and I also think it's really important for the academics to hear what the public thinks about these kind of things and get a bit of feedback going both ways.
You know, there's an inscription on a document from ancient Egypt in stone somewhere that says something like, our civilization is doomed. All you have to do is look at the young people of today, and you can see that there's no future. It's something of that kind, you know, and you think things haven't changed a bit, you know.